Hey everyone, I'm Paul with MadCap Software. We are down to the last video in this series on single sourcing in MadCap Flare, and we are going to get all over variables in Flare, and these are really cool. So variables are brief, non-formatted little bits of content that you can create once, maintain them in one place, reuse over and over and over. They're especially good for content that changes frequently or where you need some kind of automation. So I am going to begin by talking about just the basics, just what you can learn right away and be off and running, how to create variables, how to insert them, and just make use of them. As I go through this video, I'm going to get deeper and deeper and deeper and cover a lot more information. So if all you want is just to know the basics of how to get going, you can just watch that first part, or you can hover over the play bar, see all the sections of the video, what the areas are I'm going to talk about. You can skip wherever you want. And yeah, I'm just going to cover as much information as I can about variables. So let's do this. Let's talk quick steps. What are the main things that you do? You add variables, you insert variables, and then they show up in your output. Let's go in and take a look. In my little project here, I have the project organizer open on the left, and you just come down, you see it at the bottom, variables. And most templates are going to give you some variables already created, and this one is this is a variable set called general, and I'm just going to open this thing up, and there it is, some basic variables. Now, some of these things are the ones that you get right out of the box are things like your company name and address and email, phone number. And these are fine to use as variables. You could also create snippets with this information. That's fine too. But where it gets really useful is when you start seeing things down here like version number, year, because these things change. You progress through different versions of your software, and the version number updates. The year, time passes, and you don't want to have to create these things each time, stay on top of them, because it just changes. That's where variables can be very useful. Now I'm going to add a brand new variable in here. Just going to click on this little button here. It adds a row, and you can press F2, or you can just kind of click once in there. It highlights it, and I'm going to add a variable in here called user guide title, which we're going to see again later in this video. So this is something that you could put a definition on. So the variables are made up of the name of the variable and then the definition. So you can see company name, my company, city, state, and zip. Well, this is La Jolla, California, 92037. So user guide title. And what I'm going to do, you might have lots of user guides in your project, but you can maybe just pick one. For example, I'll often, the main guide that I'll use for a product is a getting started guide. And so I'll just add that, and we'll see how we can manipulate this later when we get more and more guides, because you're looking at this going, well, the name of my guide might not change much, like the name of your company doesn't really change much, but with different outputs, you're going to have different guide user guide names, and we're going to see how variables can be really useful for this, so that you only have to enter the information really once, control it in this central place. Save this. I created my variable. All right, I'm going to go to a topic in here. Let's see. Under reference, I've got company, and I already have variables inserted in here. You see, there's the company name, street, or address, and so on. And I probably wouldn't put the user guide title in this one. I'll put it somewhere else. I am going to go someplace where this user guide title variable makes more sense. I've got these this folder for front matter topics and title. So I'm thinking, okay, that seems like a good place to have the user guide title. So I'm going to open this up. And you can see I've just got text in here. And instead of that, I want to insert the variable. Now, different places where you can get to the variable to insert it. You can go to your insert ribbon and over here, click variable. And then these are variable sets, different ones. And these are the variables. And you can see there it is, my user guide title. Just click that and it added it. And now I can get rid of that text like that. Okay, so I just got the variable in there. Let's undo this though, because I want to show you, you can also get there this quick access button here in the XML editor. So you can get to the same thing through that, or you can click the down arrow and it displays ones that you variables that you already used. And this one I just inserted a moment ago, and this list will get longer and longer as you insert different variables in places. So I could do that. I often like to drag things from the left side. So if you expand underneath the variables, and there's our variable set, and I can come down to user guide title and I can just drag that thing in there. Same thing. So then I can get rid of this one and save. All right. That's how you can insert it into content. But I do want to let you know there are other places where you can insert variables besides just the XML editor. There are different places in the user interface where you're providing little bits of content. And instead of just typing content in, you can use variables. One example is, let's go into a target. We'll go into the HTML5 target here, go up on the general tab, and you can see, all right, output file. So you can provide the name of the output file when this target is generated. So you could just type it in here, or you can click this and you could select a variable if you want. You could also go, let's see, if I were to insert, say, a hyperlink. All right, I'll click right here and I go select the topic that I want to link to. And down here, there are other properties for this link. I can provide, there's the text, there's a screen tip, alternate text. Each one of these has a variable button next to it. So yeah, I can type the text, but I can also insert variables. So those are the basics. You know how to create a variable, you know how to insert it. And then when you generate the output, that definition is just going to display. In the video on conditions that I did, I talked about how you can organize your conditions into different condition tag sets. Same is true with variables. And when I created that variable, I started out with this general variable set. All right, it's just holding all these variables. And you can add everything in just the one, but you might decide to create additional ones to organize things. And the way to do this is just right click on variables and select add variable set. And I already have a file name in here, YouTube links, because that is actually one that I use. Let's just do that. Click add. So maybe, and then you get a couple of just placeholder variables in here, which you can delete and you can rename. So maybe I've got in this case, getting started video. And then what I do is I put my YouTube link in the definition. So it's just a different category than general. So let me show you my big project where all the MadCap documentation comes from. If I go in here, you look in variables, I've got 4 different variable sets in here. So I do have other, which is, that's just kind of the same thing as general. It's a whole bunch of stuff in here. You know, lots of things about the product and the company and the copyright, things like that. And then there's my YouTube links. So I create a lot of videos. And by putting the definition, the YouTube link in here, I don't have to remember everywhere that it's inserted and go replace it. When I get a new version of the video, I just change it in this one place. So that's how I make use of variable sets. Now, you might have noticed when I inserted a variable in this other small project, let's go back there. I inserted a variable, and when I went and opened up that dialog, I not only had general, that first variable set, and now you see YouTube links in here, but I also have heading and system. These are other variable sets that just are built in. Those are just part of the application. And so you're not going to go in and edit these. You're just going to make use of them. And I'm going to talk about each one of those later in this video. But when you are looking in the project organizer, you're just not going to see those there. But they become available to you when you go to insert your variables. Now let's talk about editing existing variables. It's not a whole lot to talk about here, but just one or two things to cover. So you need to make a change to a variable. It's actually very simple. We go in here, open up our general variable set, and you can just simply click in here, of course, and type, and maybe the location changed. All right, let's say you need to do that, and I have no idea what the zip code is there, but you need to make a change. That's very simple, right? You can also add comments over here, just like you can your conditions that we talked about earlier in the series. A lot of the variables are going to be very self-explanatory. Others, you might need to put a comment over there, and you just click and type. Now, one other thing that you can do in your variables is you can actually insert a variable in a variable definition. So let's go back actually to my big project, show you an example of this. I'm going to go back to this variable set in here. Now I have company name, MadCap Software, and I've got this copyright line. So maybe I want to, so MadCap Software is used, different places in the project, but one of those places could be in this other variable. And maybe I want this to say copyright, and then there's the copyright symbol, and then I want the word, the name of the company. So I could type it in here, or I could just press space, and I get a variable button right there. Click that. What do I want? Let's go find a company name, insert that, and it's giving me this syntax. It doesn't say the actual name of the company, but you know that it's a variable because of this syntax. So save that. If you want to see the name of the variable, the definition, instead of the name, the syntax here, you can just click this little button right there. And this is going to show this other column in here. And so you see what you're actually getting in the end results. So, and the comment, I mentioned that. Yeah, here's an example down here where I used a comment just so it's clear what this particular variable is all about. You might find the need to do the same thing. That's editing variables. That's pretty simple. Now, we're going to move on and talk about some other kinds of variables other than these just real basic ones that we've looked at so far. There's some really cool things that you can do. I already showed you a variable briefly that had to do with the year. I said, so you don't have to remember when you go from December to January, it will just update the year. That's what's called a date time variable. It's more automated. These are really great. Let's go see how this works. Here is my date time variable in this variable set. And you know it's different because you look at the little icon and it kind of has a clock over there. And you can insert one by just clicking this button right here. It adds a new row, new date time variable. Well, let's say, so right now, this one is set up. You look at the definition and it's y. Well, y isn't what you're going to see in the output. It's going to show 2022, 2023, 2024, just those 4 digits, depending on what year it is. But maybe I want to have more of a long form representation of the date and the time. So I could let's just change this long form date. All right. Now, how do you put this in here? Well, you just click in that and it brings up this little dialog where you can put in the format for the thing. Like mine was YYYY. And that tells you the year. When I'm recording this video, it's the year 2022. Okay. And it'll let you know if you got something wrong. And maybe you're wondering, well, how do I know what to put in there? Click this little guy right here. This gives you some examples. And then you want more information, click here. Opens up the help. These specifiers are based on Microsoft. So this is their deal. And these little combinations will give you an idea of what you can do and the results. If you want to know more, you can click that link. All right. So let's say that I look at these over on the right. And I'm looking at those and I go, yeah, I kind of like this one right here. Well, shoot, I can just copy that, paste it in here. And this is going to give me the whole enchilada, right? Now, update. What do you want this date and time to be based on? Well, it can be manual, right? Or it can be based on when the file was created, where you're inserting this variable. It can be based on when was the last time you saved the file, when was the last time you saved all of the files in the project, or is it based on the build? In my case, I use this one right here, but you might have a use for any of those. And then you just click OK, and our new variable is created. So I could go back in, let's say, to company, and maybe I just want to put when this was last published. Okay, so I could say something like this. Oops. Published, and then insert my variable. I can just click and grab the long form date right there. And let's build the output this time. We'll build HTML5 and see how it looks. And that was the company topic. Let's drag this over here and let's look at it. There it is, published, and there's my date. And so the next time I publish, of course, this will update because it's based on the build, that event. Now, maybe you're wondering, well, what if I want to make the word part of the variable too? Can you do that? Yeah, you can. Let's go and look back at our, there we go. There's our variable set editor. And let's see. What we can do is click in here, and yeah, you can type in here. And if I typed the word date, colon, so if I wanted that instead of the word publish, I could do that. The thing here is these characters, some characters, the system is going to try to translate into different date and time meanings. So what you can do is just put quotation marks around that thing like this, make that part of it, and click OK. Let's go back to our topic because I don't want it to say published and then date. And here we'll just take this one out, save it, rebuild. And we should see this date, November, blah, 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 blah. So open this thing up, drag it over, company, date. There we go. That worked. Cool. Now, what if you're looking at this and you're going, oh, this would be great, for example, if I wanted to have an indicator of when each topic in the output was created. All right. So what you could do is you could go in. You don't want to necessarily insert that variable into every topic separately. So you can insert it into a template page. So here I've got a template page, and this is what most of the topics in this particular output is going to use. It's going to show these breadcrumbs at the top in this case, and then there's my body proxy. And maybe I want at the bottom, underneath the body proxy, I want to insert, I want it to show the date that this thing was created. So I could do that. I could just click here to insert. Well, actually, let's go create another variable in here. Let's go back here. And so let's do add this, and we'll do date, time created. Or maybe you, instead of created, you want like saved. So it's the last time this thing was updated, or we could say updated, but we're just using that saved option in here. So I'm going to come in here. What do I want? What do I want? I could do the same thing that I did last time, or choose a different one. Let's say this one right here. Copy that, paste it in here, and then I could say on file save. All right, so it's for a specific file. And then I would go back into my template, and I'm going to insert this. It is the date time updated. Click OK. There we go. And so now let's see. Let's go in here, and I just want to add something. And I'm just going to add the words "the end" because I want it to have a different, I want it to stick out when exactly this thing was saved, the company file, as opposed to another one. We'll go into getting started, and I'll just delete some stuff and save that. Slightly different, although I think I used the date and the time. So they're both going to be today. Duh. If I had I didn't really put a time on the thing, I could. Let's go ahead and build this thing. We'll open it up. And so getting started, there's Monday, November 14th, 2022. Company will be the same. Now, if the next day I made another change to company, if I did this tomorrow, saved, rebuilt, this would have a different date than getting started. So that is how you could do it. That'll save you a lot of time because you put it into the template page. You don't have to worry about keeping each topic straight and inserting variables into each one. That would be terrible. All right, so that is a little bit about date time variables. Really nice, really nice. Make use of that in your project too. Another neat type of variable is a system variable, which is just based on information that's in your system already. So like I said before, it's not a variable set that you're going to open and edit, but you can make use of it for various reasons. So some of the reasons why you might use system variables might be it's another way to use the date time. It could be for some print output to display automatically the chapter, section, volume in your output. It can be used also for print output to display the page count, headers, things like that. So let's go into the print output is a good place to use this. So let's go into our page layouts, because that is what we use to control the look and feel of the pages in your output. And I've opened a very, very simple page layout here, and you can see, all right, so this is the page, and this is a frame where content is displayed. Come down here, this is a footer frame, and you can see there's some stuff going on here. These are both variables that are just inserted already into this. Now, I can edit this by pressing F2, and it opens up this little editor down here at the bottom. Look over here on the right. That is page number. That's it says variable equals system page number. So it's just automatically going to show the right page. And there are others that you could insert into here. So click the little variable button right here in that tiny editor and go over to system. So you can insert any variables that you have access to. Here are the system ones. So you can see all this stuff that you can display. Chapter number, and there's the page count and page number, and there's the date ones. All right. So if I wanted the page count, so right now it's the page number. And so how many pages in total? So I could actually go to the end of that and type of, and then another space, and then let's insert that thing, and we'll go to system page count. All right, so that would display so if I'm on page 15 of 285, that's what would display. Now, actually, when you are using this page layout feature, I'm going to just delete this temporarily and redraw a frame in here where it's brand new, a footer frame. I'm going to click and draw this thing. Now, there's nothing in there. And when I first am opening one of these where I don't have any content, press F2, it's kind of getting ahead of me. And it's saying, do you want to insert a template, a page number reference? Because it thinks that's typically what people would want at the bottom of their pages. If I don't, I just click no, but I go, yeah, that's a good idea. Click yes. So here are some variations using the variables that you can make use of. So this is kind of the one that I did, page N of N. I didn't have the word page in front of it, but if I wanted to do that. So it's basically the same thing that I inserted before. So I'm going to undo this and get back to my original. Another place where you will see variables, system variables, is in your TOC. So let's go open one of these. So when you maybe drag a topic that is in your Content Explorer and you drag it over, by default, it's going to display in blue. Doesn't mean that the text is going to show in blue in the output. It's just to show you that it's relying on a variable. So if I were to click in this, you can see the syntax, and I could type over it with whatever I wanted if I didn't want to use the variable, and then it would be black. So what is going on here? Well, by default, I'm going to double click one of these so you can see on the general tab of the properties, this is what it's doing. The label is using this variable, a system variable called linked title. I could replace that. I could add something in there, and I can click that variable button, go into system. So right now it is using linked title, tells you what it is, but maybe I want to use the file name or the header in it. It's really up to you. So that's another place where you will see system variables. So system variables, that was one variable set that you don't see in your project organizer that's behind the scenes. The other one is heading variables. Let's check those out. Print output is a good place to use these. So I am here in this page layout still. I'm going to come down here to the bottom, and I already have a heading variable that I'm using right here. And if I press F2 to edit this thing, you can see it's inserted here. I could go insert another kind of heading variable. There's the heading variable set. And this tells you, if you select this, what you're getting. So if I could, right now it's level 1, the first H1 on the page. Level 2 is the first H2 on the page. I could do any, so maybe it might be H3 or H2 or H5 that's the first heading. And that's what's going to display in this case, in the footer. You can also see that if you happen to have a page layout where you're displaying a glossary or an index, you can automatically display the heading or the term for either one of those or the last one. So it's very versatile in here. So how does it know exactly what it is going to display? It says H1, H2, but you actually this is based on a style which you can manipulate. And before I go show you that, I do have this in a footer, the heading level, but that's just because this is a footer frame. But you could draw a header frame up here, right? It's not very even, but you could go in and insert the same thing. So if you wanted that information at the top of the page instead, you can do that. Okay, so let's go into our style sheet right here. Open this guy up. And if I go look for example, my H1 in here, and I filter it to say, well, what is set on this thing? And I have it in group view right now. If I come over here and expand print support, it says MC heading level 1. And H2 is MC heading level 2, and so on. That's how it knows. That's also how you can control what shows up in your print TOC. So that's what it's looking at when it decides this is the first heading on the page. This is the first H1, the first H2. But you could change this setting on anything to force it to be a certain heading level. So there you go. Another type of variable that you can use, especially in print output. When you insert variables into content, something that you should be aware of is that they can be displayed in different ways, and you have control over that. Let's go back to this company topic where we have several that are inserted, and we're going to rely on marker settings to see these. So right now it's set a certain way. So what we're seeing is the name of the variable along with the variable definition, both of them. But some people, that might be too much information. So you can click your marker drop down, and what we can do is, let's say you don't want to see the variable names, you just want to see the definitions. So you select that, and there you go. So it's just less that your eye has to deal with in here. You also have the shading on that. Right now, it has variable highlighting. So if I undo that, it just looks like that. Or if I turn my markers off entirely, so variables is just one type of marker. There's all kinds. So you could turn them off globally just by selecting this, and it just looks like regular text. You just know you can't do anything with it because you can't click in here and edit it. It's always going to be it's always going to block you from doing that. You know it's a variable because you look up here at the structure bar and it tells you it's a variable that's inserted within a paragraph tag. So maybe you like that, or you also have the option of turning the highlighting back on so that you don't have the markers, but you do get the highlighting. So you could do something like that. Just different options. You'll decide what your preference is, what you want to see when you're editing. Now, one of the most useful things that you're going to be able to do with variables is override the definitions at the target level. Let's take a look. Now, I am back in my big project, And I have this variable set called other that is open. And I have the user guide title, same thing that I created in that small project a little while ago. And I have the definition getting started guide in here. I have this evaluated definition thing on. I can turn that off. And so, well, that's great if the guide that I'm working on is called the Getting Started Guide. But what if, so I have dozens and dozens of PDFs that I create, and I'm going to go find the topic where I have the title page, because I have the variable that's set there. So in my Content Explorer, I think it's under print only topics, probably under shared, and I've got some different title pages in here that are set up for different color schemes. And I'm going to open up this one right here, because this is what's used for Flare. So this is the way this topic looks. All right, I've got some different things in here, and I've got some variables. If I go back and turn those markers on so that we can really see it all, there's our brackets, and let's turn on the names as well. Okay, so there is my user guide title, and I also have the product name, and I've got the version number. So for every PDF that I create that's using this green color scheme, I have just this one topic. Okay, and I probably could, if I wanted to put a whole lot of extra work into it, maybe not a whole lot of extra work, I could get this down to where I only have one title page that I use for everything, doesn't matter the color scheme. So in the output, I'm going to actually open up the output for this PDF. So this is what it looks like, the version 2022 version of this. And there's getting started. Okay. And so that works out fine. But what if I wanted any of my other PDFs to display the appropriate title? And I don't want, I don't want to have to create a separate title page for, dozens and dozens of PDFs. So go to the target. So we're going to override this at the target level. I'm going to go in to PDFs. So I've got a whole bunch of targets in here for PDF, and I'm going to open this one. And if I look on the variables tab, and there's other, that's my variable set that I'm interested in, come all the way down to user guide. All I did was, it did say getting started guide. All I did was go in and type e-learning. And so when you look at that output, it looks like this. So same product date and everything, but the title is different. And so I saved time and work by just overriding things at the target level. Close out of here. I'm going to go back to the little project because something else I want to show you. You probably notice in variable set, you see these gray areas. Well, those are variable definitions, and this is a different way to kind of do the same thing. So let's go, and so you just kind of have your choice of how you want to do this. I'm going to go back into general where I have that user guide getting started, right? And I could, as I get more and more PDFs that I want to create, I could create different definitions. And so it's right here, this button. And so instead of getting started guide, maybe I want what's new guide, or maybe I want, let's think of one more. Let's think of, let's just say reference guide. Keep it simple. So I've got these alternate definitions. The first one is what is going to be used unless I say differently. Go into the targets folder. I've got this PDF right here, just one, and I look at variables, and by default, it's using getting started guide. And let's actually rename this so we know what's going on. Getting started guide. And oops, misspelled that. And then we are going to, we go, oh, we need to create a what's new guide. So I'm going to copy and paste this, and then I can make changes in my target editor for that one. And one of the changes I'm going to make is I am going to override that default definition. So I come in here to variables, general. Unless I tell it otherwise, it's going to say getting started guide on that title page. So I just go here and select what's new guide. So yeah, you can just type it, or you can set up these fancy definitions and select it there. They both work, doesn't matter. But this is a really, really great feature. It's going to allow you to have far fewer files, maintain things in one centralized location. I'd encourage you to look into using this. Over time, you can get a whole bunch of variables in your project, and you might forget that you had something. So you can do something like what I talked about earlier in this video series for snippets, is that you can do auto suggestions. And again, this is using this analysis feature that kind of runs a scan on your project. So just keep in mind, the larger the project, the longer the scan takes, and be aware that it could cause a performance hit, but maybe it'll just be fine on your project. Just test it and see. But let's see how you can make use of auto suggestions with variables. Okay, let's pick one of our variables here. How about email? Let's say that as you're typing and you start to put in the email address, and you forget, oh, I already have a variable for that could, save you a little bit of work. What you can do is go to the File, Options, the same thing I showed in the video earlier. Under Auto Suggestion, enable this stuff. For variables, it's going to list your variable sets, and then you could enable or disable any of them that you want at that level. So maybe my YouTube links, I'm not usually going to start typing in a YouTube link. I don't know, it's a little bit garbled and you don't really know exactly what it is. Or maybe that's a good idea, because I think maybe it starts out with, just want to see here. Oh, I don't have it there. Look in my big project under YouTube links. Okay, so it starts out with HTTPS, but other things could start out that way too. So maybe you want to enable that. Maybe you want to disable that. I'm going to disable it. First enable this guy and disable that. But my general variable set, I want it to auto suggest things to me. So I'm going to click OK. And then I come into a topic, and maybe I'm telling people about this email address, and I know, oh yeah, it begins with info, and I start typing and this thing pops up. And so I can press enter to insert the selection, or I can double click that and it inserts the variable for me, so that I don't have to, have this, I don't type the email address wrong or have multiple instances of it. It's just making use of the variable. So very simple little thing you can do. Enable that if you think you'll get use out of it. If it's causing your project to bog down, maybe you disable it. Earlier in this video, at the very beginning, I said variables are non-formatted, brief pieces of content. That's mostly true. I only partially lied. They are not really meant for extensive formatting. Like you have the variable, and then you put an image in there, and you make one part of the variable look like this and another part of the text look like that. But you actually can style them through your style sheet editor to make the variables look a certain way. So there is a way to style them. I'm going to show you a few ways that you can do this. By changing the formatting, the styling of your variables, it'll show up both in the XML editor when you're editing and also in your output. So One way to do this is to go into your style sheet right here. And what you're looking for is this MadCap variable style here. Anytime you see something that begins with MadCap here or MC properties over on the right, that's a special thing that was created by MadCap. Otherwise, these things are just standard CSS styles and properties. So we want to change the look of our variables. Well, let's just keep it simple and change the color. And so maybe I want to change all of my variables to orange. And you have to determine your own use case for this, why you want certain variables or all variables or certain variables to stand out. That's up to you. I'm changing it to orange. Going to click save, go look at this topic where I have variables, and you can see it's showing up here. And if I preview it and generate the output, it's going to be orange. So very easy to do, but it's going to be all of your variables that are going to show up like that. And you might be thinking, well, I don't want all the variables to be that gross orange. I want only some to be that gross orange. So what you could do is create a selector, a class. And so in here, it is going to be underneath the MadCap variable element. You could clear this out and make it a generic one so that you could apply it to anything, but we'll just keep it here. And let's say, let's give this a name. Let's say variable emphasis. All right, so it's a special one and it adds it right here. And let's go change, let's go put that orange, that gross orange color back in. And we'll save it and go back to our topic. Now, nothing has it because I haven't told it to. This is on that MadCap variable style. If I click at the end of this, you're going to see, okay, that's a paragraph. But what we're talking about is a span class. It is a character level. So it shows up here at the top. So I can do a couple of things. I can select that, right, like that, or I could right click down here and select style class, and there's the orange thing. Or yeah, just select that, and then from my styles, choose it. And so that one stands out as orange, whereas the others are all the way they were. So that's a little bit manual because you just have to apply the thing where you want it, but it gives you control over it. I'm going to show you another way to do this that is a little bit more powerful. Maybe you have a certain variable that's in a lot of places. Let's just say it's your phone number. I don't know why you'd have your phone number all over the place, but let's say that you do, and you think, well, I would like this not to be a disgusting orange. I would like this to be a weird green. Okay, you can do that. Let's go back to our variable set editor, and we click on phone number. And up here, there is edit variable style. So just click on that. And what that does is it adds underneath that MadCap style, it adds another style class, a special one, and it's got the name of the variable set and the name of the variable under it. So let's go choose green in here. It's not too weird, but I probably wouldn't make all my phone number, every instance of my phone number green, but you can do what you want. And then come back into company, and that one is green and the others aren't. So just a few different ways that you can control the look to make a variable stand out. If you've got a good reason for that, use one of those methods to do it. Since I just talked about styled variables, I also want to talk briefly about CSS variables. This is unlike anything that we've seen so far in this. It's kind of related, is sort of a cousin, because it doesn't have to do with those exact variables that we've seen before, but they are variables. It's just that they live and work in your style sheet. So There's more to this than what I'm going to talk about in this little section. If you really want to know this in detail, go into the online help and explore it. But I'm going to give you a quick demo and show you what these are about, how you can use variables to cut down on your work in your style sheet. Okay, so here is my style sheet. And there are different kinds of properties that you will set on different styles, color, font, and so on. One of the real common ones is color. That might be the most common thing that's done with what are called CSS variables. So you're not going to use CSS variables for everything, but color is a good example of that. And in this little project, in the style sheet, you can see I've got this variables section over here on the left. And if I expand that, it says root. There are different ways to create these CSS variables. Probably you're going to want to do something like this. Create this root thing. And then I want to see, well, what's set on this? And right now I have it filtered, so it's showing all my styles and showing it in group view. And I'm just going to go over here and say, show me what's set on this thing. And it shows these variables. And I've got black and brand 1 and brand 2 and dark and light and gray, these different things. And this can be useful because look at, for example, black. Black is the hex number is this 000000. But you could write it in different ways. You could write it 000. You could just type black and it would work. And then you could have a style sheet that has all these different values in it, but you could keep them the same by just controlling things up here at your root variable root. And so then if you need to make a change to something like brand 1, that's your brand color. Maybe the color changes at some point. And so you don't have to go and find every instance of it in your style sheet. You just change it in one place. So let's do this. I'm going to create a brand new variable in here. Go up here to CSS variable and select add new CSS variable. And I'm just going to call this one cool. No reason, just because, the value cannot be left blank. See, I'm doing this too fast. So, okay, so it's called cool. And what do I want? So you can choose custom, or these are some of the main things that you'll want to control with a CSS variable. And we're going to do color. And then I'll choose one, and okay, aqua. All right, let's do that. That's gross. And it'll stand out. It'll stand out. So click OK, and there it adds it into our list. Now, nothing is aqua yet because I haven't associated any of my other styles with this. Let's say, let's do a list. An ordered list, a numbered list. And so in here, let's go back to our all properties and see there's the color. And I could go in and choose any color I want, but if I want to rely on a variable, I go back up to this. So I'm clicking in the field and I go up here and select insert CSS variable. And from the dropdown, it's going to list everything that I've got up there in that root. So I'm going to select cool and click OK. And there's my preview down there. And then let's go let's turn this thing into a numbered list. And right there you go. Well, ain't that purty? Okay, I wouldn't want to read it, but you can control certain things in your style sheet using variable. That's pretty slick. So I definitely use that throughout my style sheet. I'm just not turning anything this color. In the video I did on snippets earlier in this series, I showed how you could pin your favorite snippets, the ones you use most often, so that they're easily accessible. Same deal with variables. Now, a lot of variables that you insert, you might just insert them once or twice throughout your project, and that's it. And who cares? But maybe there are some that you are inserting in quite a few places. I don't know that there's a great example in this list, but let's just pick one. Maybe, okay, version number. Let's do that. So you just happen to insert the version number in a lot of places. And I know this isn't not really providing context here, because you probably wouldn't just insert this no reason right on this blank line, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I'm going to click that, go to my general set and select version number, click OK. Great. I've inserted it once, and then I'm somewhere else and I need to insert that version number again. Come up here to the drop down for your variables, and it lists the most recent things in here. There's my version number. Click that to pin it. So as you insert variables over time, this section right here is just going to be replaced because it's going to show the most recent. But if you're inserting one a whole lot, it doesn't get lost down here. It doesn't disappear, and you can always get to it really quickly like that. Very simple. Absolutely make use of that if you're inserting the same variable lots of places. Another feature that I showed earlier with snippets is the ability to convert them from snippets into text. You can also do that with variables. So this won't take long. Open up the topic, and if you remember from the snippets video, I created templates of responsive layouts, dragged them over, converted those snippets to text. You might have a similar situation with variables. You'll just figure out a reason for it, or maybe you just change your mind and you want to go from a variable back to text. Very easy. Just right click, convert to text, right click, convert to text. You know, it's like I'm Oprah or something. You get to be texting, you get to be texting, you get to be text. So just know that you have the ability to do that. A lot of things that are really nice to do are just come from the right click menu. Just know that that goes for variables or anything else in Flare. I discover things that I forgot about all the time just by right clicking. And finally, I want to take you through some analysis features, just like I showed you for snippets. There are some useful things that you can look up and do there. So I have converted these things to text, and so they're just kind of out there now as text, but the variables still exist. And in fact, my company name, I copied this text to a couple of other topics. And so one of the things you can do, first of all, go up here, go to your options dialog, and on the project analysis ribbon, similar as I showed you for snippets, select this collect variable prospects. That's the main thing that I'm interested in here, and I'll just click cancel. I have, if you just set it, just click OK, but I'm going to click cancel, and then go over here to suggestions. And so you might have text out there that matches variables, and you could quickly convert them the opposite way. Instead of going from variable converting to text, convert your text to variables. So select that and go variable suggestions, and it brings up a list of these. So it's saying, hey, we recommend you convert these things to variables that you already have. And you can see there's company name, company name, company name. I had changed, so there's text there, and I put it there, and I put it there. All right, so what I can do is, in the case of those three, I'm going to say, yeah, let's convert, let's apply that. So do that. It does it. So go back over here. You get a variable, you get a variable, you get a variable. Nice and easy. So you could save a lot of time doing that, finding just text that you forgot that you had all over the place, or you got other writers and they're typing stuff and you just want to, consolidate things, convert it to variables because they should be. Another report that you can use up here is the undefined variables. So in my case, none come up because they're all, the links are all good. I created the variables, the definitions are there. I inserted those into topics. Nothing is broken, but sometimes things can get broken. The example I mentioned for snippets is you changed or actually it was, I think it was conditions. You changed the name of the condition tag set, and then the things get broken. because you didn't update the links, and the same thing could happen here. So it's just a way to find problems. Actually, what I do is I will do an overall scan like this. I'll just run the scan on my whole project. This is for variables and everything else. And then I'll look for things that are in red that definitely need to be fixed. A lot of this is just informational, but if I had undefined variables in here, they would show up and I go, oh yeah, and I double click on that, it opens up the undefined variables, and I would go fix those things. Another useful report, used items, you can see the variables that you've used. And you can also go into unused items, just like I've showed before, and select unused variables. Maybe you've got some variables out there that you created and it's like, I'm not even using these things. And you could get rid of them, or you could go find a place to insert them. And that's variables. That's as much as I can think of to show you in this short amount of time. And that is going to bring us to the end of our entire video series on single sourcing. I hope that you found it useful and have things in there that you can apply right away and just enhance your project, make it better, and make life easier for you. Thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you next time.